I went from a college dropout with absolutely no skills and just a passion for sports to generating well over 8 figures as a sports bettor. And let me tell you guys, it wasn't always that easy. It wasn't just an incredible leap from nothing to, something, right? It took a lot of lessons, painful errors, blowing bankrolls, chasing losses, emotional outbursts, and a lot of learning. I've been doing this over 12 years. I've absolutely seen it all. And it took a lot of those valuable lessons before I was ever able to successfully make it as a sports bettor. The reality is that if you guys try to do this on your own, it's extremely difficult. But if you have the right people, the right mentors, the right people in place to help you, to guide you through the process, it will make it very, very easy for you to be successful.
If you are still betting NFL spreads, totals, or props without understanding how injuries, key numbers, or team travel impact the line, you are unfortunately just donating to the books every week. In this video, I am going to break down how pros approach sides, totals, and props differently, especially when it pertains to the NFL, with the exact football-specific edges that I use to cash all season long. And for those of you guys that aren't aware, we went 89-29 last year in the NFL, racking up hundreds of units of profit by beating the books using some of these same exact strategies. Now, let's start with betting sides, spreads, and money lines. Most casual bettors just look at QB matchups or final scores from last week, but smart bettors, we dig deeper. We look at things such as the key numbers. That's the first and the most important thing to understand in NFL spreads is betting on key numbers. 3, 7, 6, and 10. Let me repeat those 4 numbers for you again because that is money that you have to know about. 3, 7, 6, and 10 are the 4 key numbers in the NFL. Those are the margins that most NFL games end on. Why? Because of how scoring works. Touchdowns equal 6, point afters equal 1, or 2 if you have a 2-point conversion, and field goals equal 3, which are the 3 most common methodologies for scoring. So the difference between -2.5 and -3.5 is not just minor, it is massive. That's why you will often see juice spreads at -3 or at -6.5, 7, these types of lines because of how valuable they really are. And some books might juice a spread at -3 to maybe -120 odds because books do not want to move off of that key number unless some sort of insane amount of money or sharp angles force them off of it. The second thing that you have to realize is injury impact, position specific. QB injuries are obvious, okay? We all know if the starting quarterback is hurt, that is going to affect the line and the impact of the game and the outcome significantly. But what about other key positions? What about offensive line or cornerbacks? See, sharp bettors know that missing a left tackle shifts pass pressure and throws off the entire game script. A number 2 cornerback being out forces mismatches and gives wide receiver 2s huge value. It can impact player props, it can impact totals, it can even impact QB numbers, which we'll get to later. So you always got to check the trenches, the coverage units, not just skill positions, and really get a grasp for who's injured, what kind of depth that team has, and how it could possibly affect them. The third thing that you need to look at is travel, rest, and situational angles. NFL teams and players are, after all, humans. They are not robots. Traveling west to east for a 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game, historically worse. Teams coming off of Monday Night Football or a London game, fatigued, underperforming, defenses perform worse, slower, overs hit at a higher rate. So you gotta watch for these type of edges, but there's also good edges, such as rest edges. Teams coming off a bye versus a team on a short week. The advantage on rest significantly goes to the team coming off the bye. There are built-in advantages that the books do bake into lines often, but they're not always baking these lines in correctly, so you gotta stay on top of it. Now, let's talk about totals, overs and unders. Most people bet these totals based on what they think teams will score, but that is a big mistake. That is not the play, and I'm sure you already know that. The number one thing that you have to look at is weather and stadium. If it's an open-air stadium with 25 miles per hour winds, such as the Chicago Bears, stadium, the unders might cash at a ridiculous clip if you're familiar with the weather and know what's going on. Why? Because the entire offense cannot be unleashed if it's that windy, because it's going to create a lot of variance, a lot of incomplete passes, and the deep ball will be eliminated. Dome games are usually faster paced, higher scoring, and have much more controlled conditions. So domes equal overs. Overs hit far more often inside a dome. So you should always check the stadium type, the weather, and all of this information at least 24 to 48 hours before kickoff, but definitely before placing your bets. The second thing that you have to look at is matchup tempo and script. It's not about offense versus defense. It's all about matchups and pace. Professionals look at matchup and pace. Casual bettors look at offense and defense. Do both teams play slow, run-heavy ball? Then lean the under. Do both teams love to play fast-paced, up-tempo, short pass, quick pass game? Then lean the over. Does one team play very fast and the other team can't stop explosive plays? Then you probably should lean the over again. Game script matters a lot. For example, if Team A is a 10-point favorite, it is more likely that they will run the ball more in the second half, so the under is more of a live play that you can take, especially if they're doing their job and they're winning the game in the first half. If both teams are throwing 35 plus times a game, that means that the clock is going to stop a lot, and that means that the over is in play, especially if it's a high total game with a spread or a money line that is relatively close to each other. So that is another thing to look into. Number 3, line movement versus public, okay? One of my favorite sharp signals. Total moves down even when the public is on the over. That is called reverse line movement, and it is often the pros hammering the under. So you should always look at line movement in retrospect to the betting percentage, okay? Because that is a key indicator that can give you a lot of insight and a lot of information into what pros and sharps are doing versus the public. And if it's a pros versus a Joes, like I like to call it, you like to be on the side of the pros because they beat the Joes way more often than you think. Now let's talk about betting props. Betting props are where most of the hidden edges are live, especially early in the season. Injury substitutions and market lag. Let's talk about this first. Books are very, very slow to adjust to rule changes. If a wide receiver 2 is ruled out on Friday, wide receiver 3 overs should pop, realistically speaking, as they're going to get more targets and the books won't catch up until Sunday morning. Same with running back rotations. Backups who take over often smash their rushing yard props before the line moves. Why? If the starting running back is hurt and the backup is stepping in, someone's going to get those carries, someone's going to get those yards, and oftentimes the books have not adjusted these lines sharp enough or well enough to factor those in. Now, let's go ahead and talk about matchup exploits. Always dig into the defensive matchups. Teams give up a ton of points or, yards or whatever it is to tight ends. Play the tight end receiving prop. It's that simple, right? Look at defense versus offensive position data to find which positions may be able to leverage the defense and score more. If you see a weak slot corner, go with the over on the wide receiver 2s. If you see an elite pass rush, take QB rush yards over or under on his pass attempts, because if he's rushed, he doesn't have time to throw the ball and he's most likely going to be scrambling and trying to create plays, right? So these are the types of things that you should factor in. Number 3, let's talk about game script correlation. Props do not exist in a vacuum. If you like the under in a game, look for RB carry overs, right? Because if it's a game that's a low scoring game, most likely there's a lot more clock being chewed and the running back getting a lot more carries, or maybe even, QB pass attempt unders, right? If you like a blowout, look at who might get garbage time pass yards, right? Maybe even pass catchers, right? They might get a lot of garbage time yards for sneaky overs, especially younger players who may stay out there later in the game than maybe a veteran. So these are all of the types of things that you can look at when it comes to player props to skew and push the advantage to your side. See, I told you guys already, I'm 89-29 on my NFL bets from 2024-2025 season. The NFL is one of the most efficient betting markets in the world, but with the right process, right filters, and right reads, you can find real edges just like I have. I will be doing more NFL strategy videos all season long. And if you guys actually want my full NFL futures report, it has dropped today. You can hit the link down below where I will share my Super Bowl winners, MVP winners, division winners, over-unders on players, player props, and so many other future long shots, including Super Bowl winners and matchups and all this good stuff. It's all inside. It's available right now for sale. And last year, we generated over 22 units of profit, and I accurately predicted the Super Bowl winner before week 1. Link is in the description if you want it, and drop a comment if you want a breakdown video for week 1 lines or live betting strategy. Let's get rich off sports. I'll catch you in the next video.
Listen, sports betting is not an easy game, and I understand it because I've been there and I've done that, right? If you want to take a shortcut and stop having to figure all the tough things out and create your own data models and probability models and dealing with statistics and all the stuff that comes with it, I have a very easy shortcut for you. Join my community. I've got thousands of members that simply copy and paste my plays. I spend the hard-earned money, the hard-earned time, and I do all the hard work to find the value on the board every single day. All you have to do is just copy and paste my plays. If you guys are interested in that or even want a free play, check the description down below.